Hari Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Hiranyagarbhaya Namaha. Om Shri Mahavishnave Namaha. Om Shri Mahadevaya Namaha. Om Shri Mahadurgaye Namaha. Om Shri Rama Ramaya Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurave Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakritav Vande Bhagavantav Punah Punah Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः शङ्करं परमानन्दं ब्रह्मनिष्ठं यतीश्वरम् भाष्यभ्रान्तिहरं वन्दे शुद्धज्ञानैकबोधकम् ॐ नमः शिवाय 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 नमः पार्वती पते हर हर महादेव हरि ओम हरि ओम. We'll begin with the Shanti mantra. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahmopanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaha te mayi santu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. So Naradji approaches Sanat Kumarji and requests him to teach him that Atma Vidya. So when Naradji reveals all that he knows, all the Vedas, Puranas, Itihas, all Vidyas, then the teacher tells him that what you know is just name. So starting from name, going at a subtler and subtler level, the teacher will point out that Supreme Brahma as our own self So the world which we experience, the vast world, and all that we know about the world, all the knowledge is just a name. So the teacher tells Naradji, you meditate on name as Brahma. Thereafter, on Naradji's request, the teacher says that there is something greater, something subtler than name, and that is speech. So speech is subtler than Nam, because with speech alone the name gets revealed. So we come to know the name only through speech. Otherwise, without speech, we will not gain any knowledge. We will not know what is dharma, dharma, what is satya, what is asatya. All this we come to know only through speech. Then the teacher tells Naradji that you meditate on speech as Brahma. Vacham upasveti. You do the upasana of the Supreme Brahma, taking the help of Vacham, speech. Then Naradji asks the teacher, is there anything subtler than speech, greater than speech? So the teacher says, yes, there is something greater than speech. And that the teacher now reveals in the third section. So let us chant the first mantra of the third section. Mano vacho bhuyah यथा वै द्वे वामलके द्वे वाकोले द्वौ वाक्षौ मुष्टिः अनुभवति एवं वाचं च नाम च मनोऽनुभवति स यदा मनसि अथ अधीते कर्माणि कुर्वीयेति अथ कुरुते पुत्रांश्च पशूंश्च इच्छेयेति अथ इच्छत इमं च लोकम् अमुं च इच्छेति अथ इच्छते मनो यात्मा मन upasveti. So the teacher now tells कि मनः वाव वाचो भूयः, that mind is superior, is greater than vacha. Mind is a thinking faculty which we have. It is greater than speech, because the speech is also propelled by the mind alone. The mind which thinks, the mind which has got the capacity to think, has got the capacity to propel the speech. So mana is a antakkarana, an inner instrument. Eyes, ears, and all are bahikkarana, external instruments. So the eyes, ears, they go out into the world and comprehend the world. But they are all controlled by this faculty called mind from within. And the mind is inner equipment. So manaha, manasyana vishishtam antakaranam vacho bhuyah. So this mind is superior to the vacha, the speech. Shankaracharya writes further, कि तद ही मनस्य न व्यापारवत् वाचम वक्तव्ये प्रेरयति. That this mind propels the speech. When the thought comes in the mind to speak, then we speak. So at every moment when the speech is activated, there is this mind which is activating that speech. So tena vang manasyantav bhavati. Therefore, the mind is subtler, interior to the speech. Yaccha yasmin antar bhavati tat tasya vyapakatvat tato bhuyah bhavati. So that which is within, that which is subtler, that which is more pervasive is greater than that which is pervaded. So therefore, the mind is greater than speech. Here the scripture gives the example also कि यथा वै लोके द्वे वामलके फले द्वे वा कोले बदरफले द्वौ वाक्षो विधीतकफले मुष्टिः अनुभवति मुष्टिस्ते फले व्याप्नोति मुष्टौ हि ते अंतर्भवतः. Just like in this world, little fruits like amalaka, that avla, or some other fruit like kola or badarafala. This little fruit, when we place it in our palm, we can just close our fist, and those fruits they are they are uh, they are held together by the palm. They are held within our palm. So the palm pervades those fruits. In the same way, the mind is like the palm, which holds together not only the speech but even the name. They are both held by the mind itself. Evam vachancha nama cha amalakad iva manonubhavati. So both nam as well as vacha is held within the mind. See, when we, for example, I see this apple, so with my eyes I see the form and the color, and I know the name of this fruit as apple. So that apple, that name enters and remains in my mind. It is held within the mind. And when I have to express it, when I have to tell it to someone, then from that mind alone, I express it through my speech. So both the name as well as speech is held within the mind. Mind is more pervasive than the speech, than the name. Mind holds the name and speech within itself. Therefore, mind is subtler, mind is superior. See, very interesting. Through our senses, we perceive what is present now in front of us. This apple which is present in front of me, I can look at it, I can see it. But when the apple is not in front of me, or when I close my eyes, I can continue seeing that apple through in my mind. Not only I can see things which are present, but I can also recollect something of the past in the mind and see it. I can also think about something in future, something of the future, and think and bring that in my mind. So mind pervades more than the senses. I see an image, I see an object, and mind can beautify that image. Mind can bring about change in that image. For example, we have this our mobile, and we click a picture. Then we can do some changes in that picture also. We can do some Photoshop. I look a little plump, fat in my picture. I use some Photoshop technique to look slim. There are some people in the background which are distracting my picture, so I can remove them. I can change my complexion. I can change my hairstyle. I can change my dress. All this I can do with the image which was taken with the help of this application like Photoshop, etc. So the camera just takes the image as it is, but this application, they can reform those images. Similarly, through our eyes and all, we can see the world as it is. We cannot change the color of this world. We cannot change the quality of the world. We can perceive the world as it is. But with the help of the mind has got the capacity to reform the what we perceive, to change what we perceive, to add something, to delete something. So that is the thinking and imagining capacity of the mind, which is subtler than the speech and the nama. Therefore, the teacher here, he says that mind is superior. Further, Shankaracharya writes in his Bhashya, कि स यदा पुरुषो यस्मिन् काले मनसा अंतकरणेन मनस्यति मनस्यनं विवक्षा बुद्धिः कथम मंत्रान् अधीय उच्चारयेयम् इति एवं विवक्षां कृत्वा अथ अधीते तथा कर्माणि कुर्वीति तथा कर्माणि कुर्वीय इति चिकीर्षा बुद्धिं कृत्वा अथ कुरुते. The mind, the thought comes in the mind to perform a particular action, and then we perform that action. The thought comes in the mind to speak, and then we speak. So mind not only propels our speech, The mind also propels other sense organs and also the organs of action into various types of activity. Only propelled by the mind, the senses start performing their respective activities. They get engaged in their functions. Mind propels them. We had seen in Kathopanishad also the very beautiful image was given there that our body is like a chariot. The senses are like the horses, and the mind is like the reins. So the reins play a very important role to propel the horses. When the reins are pulled behind, the horses can be stopped, or by manipulating the reins, the horses can be turned to left or right, or they can gallop faster forward. So all this is done through the reins. So mind is like the reins which control the senses. So senses are engaged in various activities, the karmendriyas, when the mind thinks about it. If the thought doesn't come in the mind, then we will not get engaged in activities. Therefore, it is said कि मंत्रान अधीय उच्चारयेयम इति एवं विवक्षाम कृत्वा अथ adhite. So when that thought comes that let me chant this mantra, let me speak, let me do the path of this mantra, then we start speaking, then we start chanting. And that if we observe, see, this requires a keen observation of our own personality. So the teacher is now taking us into this inner journey. He will make us come face to face with our own inner self. So we have to take this inner journey, starting from Nama. We have to go all the way inside. So the world is understood as Nam, as just a name. That name gets expressed through speech, but the speech and name are controlled by the mind. So mind is subtler than the speech as well as the name. Even other activities, when the thought comes in our mind, then we perform those activities. Sometimes if there is some problem with our body and all, if there is some paralysis or some other problem, then even when the thought comes, we struggle to activate the body, it doesn't function. But in a normal condition, when that thought comes in our mind, then it activates the body. For example, my hand has got the capacity to move, but it will not just move unnecessarily. When the thought comes in my mind, let me wave my hand, then the hand starts waving. So that is how the mind controls, and mind is subtler. So चिकीर्षा बुद्धिं कृत्वा अथ कुरुते पुत्रांश्च पशूंश्च इच्छेय इति प्राप्ति इच्छां कृत्वा तत्प्राप्ति उपाय अनुष्ठानेन अथ इच्छते पुत्रादीन् प्राप्नोति इत्यर्थः. Similarly, when that desire comes in the mind that let me have a child or let me do this anushtan to obtain a child or obtain something of this world or other world, then I perform those actions and obtain those desired objects. So the mind propels us into action. तथा इमंच लोकम अमुंच उपायेन इच्छेय इति तत्प्राप्ति उपाय अनुष्ठानेन अथ इच्छते प्राप्नोति. Again, that thought comes that let me obtain that loka. I want to go to Swarga loka or I want to go to Brahma loka. That thought comes in our mind, and then we engage into the various rituals which will take me to those lokas. So the mind is the one which activates the speech. Mind is the one which activates other senses. Therefore, the mind is subtler than the speech. Further, the teacher says कि मनो ही आत्मा आत्मनः कर्तृत्वं भोक्तृत्वं च सति मनसि न अन्यथा इति मनो ही आत्मा इति उच्यते. Again, the teacher says mano hi atma, that the mind itself is atma also. Atma, the antaratma, the pratyek atma. Here it is said the mind itself is atma. But the mind, how can mind be atma? Mind is constantly changing. Mind is limited. Why mind is called atma? Shankaracharya ji writes कि आत्मनः कर्तृत्वं भोक्तृत्वं च सति मनसि न अन्यथा इति मनो हि आत्मा उच्यते. That only in the presence of the mind the atma gets the what you call the upadhi of being a karta or a bhokta. Because of the mind only, we become the karta, the bhokta, the jnata. Mind makes us the doer, knower, enjoyer. Therefore, the mind itself is indicated here as Atma. See, when we are in deep sleep, we are totally cut off from our sthula sharir, from our sukshma sharir. We remain totally alone. There are no activities. There is no experience. There is no knowing or not knowing happening there. There are no qualities. Absolutely alone. And we have seen in the previous chapter also that in deep sleep I become one with that Supreme Brahma. So the Atma is not a doer, Atma is not an enjoyer, Atma is not a knower. But because of the presence of the mind, And because of the presence of the senses in the waking state, when the body is active, then I get the feeling that I am acting. When the senses are perceiving, I get the feeling that I am perceiving. When the mind is active, I feel that I am active. So, because of the presence of the mind, I become a karta, I become a bhokta. Means my presence is expressed in the waking state as a karta, as a bhokta, as a niyata, because of the mind. Therefore, here just to indicate that Atma, the mind itself is called Atma. Mind itself is called Atma. See, for example, let us say the the glass pane is there on the door. We have a glass door, and it is so transparent that sometimes people actually not noticing that door, unknowingly they bang on the door also, because the door is not seen because of that glass which is absolutely transparent. Then they put some sticker on that door so that we can notice the sticker and don't get banged on the door. So from a distance, we can tell someone that you can see that sticker, that is the door. So the door is pointed out by pointing the sticker, because sticker is something which can be seen, which can be noticed. The door itself is invisible, totally transparent, so cannot be seen. Similarly, the mind, the Atma is so subtle, is not pursued in any way, but because of the presence of the mind, kartrutva bhavana comes in the mind. The mind becomes a karta, the Atma becomes as though a karta, the Atma becomes as though a bhokta. Because of the mind only, the Atma gains that kartrutva and bhoktrutva. So indirectly, the mind itself is indicated here as Atma. So manohi Atma, Atmanaha kartrutvam bhoktrutvam cha sati manasi na anyatha iti manohi Atma uchyate. Therefore, mind is called Atma. Means one can focus our attention on the mind itself as Atma, because Atma is the inner support of this mind. It is ultimately Atma alone which is expressing as the mind. So the mind itself can be understood as Atma. Just as the example was given of Shakha Chandra, that if we want to point out the moon, which is very faint and subtle in the sky, we point out to the tree and then shift the attention from the tree to the branch, and from the branch we shift the attention to the leaf. We say those leaves, can you see? Those leaves themselves are pointed out as the moon. Similarly, here the mind itself is pointed out as Atma. Because it is the upadhi which will help us to comprehend that Atma. Further, the teacher says, Manohi lokaha. Again, the mind itself is loka. The whole world is also experienced through the mind. The entire world and all the various levels of this world, the various bhuvanas are there. All of them are understood, known as nama, and this nama is expressed as speech, and the whole thing is comprehended by the mind. So the mind itself is the entire loka. The entire loka is understood as mind. Only when the mind is there, the loka is experienced. So manohi lokaha sati evahi manasi loko bhavati. Just as in our dream, we see a beautiful world. That world exists in the mind itself. The mind itself is bringing out, projecting that world which we are experiencing. Similarly, this world which we experience in the waking also gets expressed because of the mind only. So mind itself, therefore, is called the world. Manohi lokaha. And tat prapti upaya anushtanam cha iti. Manohi loko yasmat tasmat manohi brahma. And when we see the world, we put forth effort to obtain something of this world. And that also happens because of the presence of the mind. Therefore, mind itself is called a loka. And since the mind is the world, the mind itself is also finally indicated as Brahma. So tat prapti upaya anushtanam chaiti manohi loko yasmat manohi Brahma. Mind itself is Brahma. Because of the presence of the mind only, the world is experienced, and mind itself is the world, hence mind itself is Brahma. So yat evam tasmad mana upasveti. Therefore, the teacher says that you meditate on mind itself as Brahma. Now see, first the teacher pointed out the entire knowledge of this world as Nama and told Naradji to meditate on Nama as Brahma. Thereafter, he pointed out the subtlety of speech and then told Naradji to meditate on speech as Brahma. But the speech and all our activities depend on the mind. Mind itself, mind is subtler than the speech, mind is subtler than the nama, and because of the presence of the mind, the self becomes the karta, bhokta, jnata. Because of the presence of the mind, one gets engaged in various activities to obtain the different things of this world. So everything seems to be like a play of the mind. In fact, the whole world is is a play of that cosmic mind alone. We have seen that from that supreme Brahma, Hiranyagarbha is born, and from Hiranyagarbha, Vaishvanara is born. And Vaishvanara brings the entire world in his mind. The world which he wants to create, first he brings in his mind. And then that world he projects using the Pancha Mahabhut. Just like a pot maker brings the pot which he wants to create in his mind. And then with the help of the clay, he makes that pot. In the same way, that Vaishvanara brings the world which was there in the previous kalpa in his mind. The sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, all the beings, they come into his mind, and he just manifests what is there in his mind in the through the Pancha Mahabhut. So the entire world exists in his mind only. So one has to, and our mind is part of that cosmic mind. Our individual mind is part of that cosmic mind alone. With the help of the mind, we not only perceive the world which is there in front of us, the gross physical world, but with the help of the mind, we also pursue the subtler world of our dream, of the past. We also pursue the world of our past. We can sit at one place and just go back in our memory, think about even our childhood world, or we can think about the future. So the entire world is projected by the mind. So this mind is expression of that supreme Brahma alone. Brahma alone expresses as the mind. Brahma expresses as this world, and Brahma also expresses as the mind. And through the mind, the Brahma alone becomes the knower of the world. Brahma alone expresses as the world as well as the knower of the world. So our mind is most fascinating. The beauty, the secret, the power of Bhagwan's Prakriti or Maya can be appreciated by observing our own mind. Just like in the electronic world, we see so many features, so many new things, new inventions, which are so amazing. Nowadays, they talk about this AI, artificial intelligence, which is also presenting so many miraculous things. All this is possible in the electronic world, but subtler and more superior than this electronic world is the world made from our mind. Mind is most amazing. We see an image with our eyes when they are open, but the same image I can see even with my eyes closed. That is done with the mind. Mind can create a similar image. Mind can rectify that image. Mind can modify that image. So, mind is the subtlest power of that supreme Brahma. So, here Naradji, the teacher tells Naradji, you meditate on your mind itself as Brahma. Take your mind as the pratik of Brahma. Just as we take the Shivalinga or uh, the other images as pratik of the devatas like Shaligram, etc. One should take the mind itself, the pratik of Brahma, and meditate on mind as Brahma. It's the most fascinating meditation, a subtler meditation. To meditate on some object is very gross. To meditate on name is subtler. To meditate on speech is even subtler. But to meditate on the mind is very subtle. So just one has to sit quietly and observe one's own mind. It's just a thinking, the thinking instrument, it keeps on thinking. Non-stop thinking happens, and non-stop feeling also happens. See, sometimes people switch on their television and it is kept on. They keep doing their work, they keep moving here and there, and in the background, the television is on. When you travel by flight and all, if you are waiting at the airport, you see those television screens here and there. They're on constantly. Something or other keeps happening. Similarly, this mind is constantly on. Only in deep sleep it is as though switched off. In dream also it is on, and in waking also it is constantly on. You cannot switch it off. If we switch off the mind in the waking, we will go into samadhi. That is called samadhi. Yogaschitta vritti nirodha. When the chitta vritti are stopped, then we attain the samadhi avastha. But it cannot be stopped just like that. With extreme vairagya and abhyas, we will be able to stop the mind. Otherwise, it constantly is active and it is propelled from within. Our samskars and all propel the mind continuously. It is not fully under our control. It keeps on moving. Just like you sit in front of the ocean, you will find the waves are constantly rising and falling. Similarly, the thoughts keep on coming and going, emotions keep on coming and going, creating images, creating feelings, creating sensations. A thought of some eatable comes in your mind and you it creates the saliva in your mouth. A thought of some fearful incident comes and it creates fear in our antakarana. I just remember something funny and then I start smiling, start laughing. So all this is created by the mind. So here the teacher is advising that you just look at the mind and meditate on that mind as Brahma. You don't have to change the mind or suppress the mind or do anything. Just like you look at the flag or national flag and meditate or salute the flag as Bharata. In the same way, you just look at the mind and meditate on the mind as Brahma. Without getting distracted, without identifying, without suppressing, judging, without condemning, just become aware of the beautiful mind. Everyone's mind is beautiful. It's the creation, the most fascinating creation of Ishvara. Just as we look at the mountain, the rivers, and enjoy the beauty and get fascinated by their beauty, we look at a flower so soft and so fragrant. We look at the butterfly so very delicate. We look at the lightning so very powerful. All these are expressions, the creation of that Ishvara, manifestation of that Supreme. Similarly, the mind is also expression of that Supreme Brahma. Brahma is very subtle. Brahma is beyond all definitions. Brahma doesn't have any color, form, but the mind does have qualities. So one can meditate on mind itself as Brahma. One has to just sit quietly, let the mind do its dance in front, and just be an observer of the mind and meditate on that mind as Brahma. Just like we go to the temple, we see the beautiful idol in front of us. We don't have to do anything there. We don't have to garland the idol. We don't have to apply tika. We just stand in front, do namaskar, and look at that idol and enjoy the beauty of that idol. Similarly, you don't have to do anything to the mind. Just look at your mind and meditate on your mind as Brahma. Then what will happen? The teacher says further, the second mantra, Sayo mano brahmeti upaste yavan manaso gatam tatra asya yatha kamacharo bhavati yo mano brahmeti upaste asti bhagavo manaso bhuya iti manaso vava bhuyosti iti tanme bhagwan bravitu iti. So the teacher tells the falashruti of this upasana. He says, Sayo mano brahma iti upaste, one who meditates on manaha as Brahma. Those who meditate on mind as Brahma, Then what happens? Yavan manaso gatam tatra asya yatha kamacharo bhavati. Then whatever is the range of this mind is so subtle, it is so pervasive, it is so magnificent, so powerful, so dynamic, and so amazing, is most miraculous, fascinating. Don't have to, many people they keep cursing their own mind and disregarding it and all. It's the most fascinating equipment. If we understand our mind properly and use it properly, it can give us greatest of joy. All our problem which we experience is because of misuse of mind. Misusing mind gives us sorrow, pain. Just as when we misuse our body, then different types of disease and illness comes and we suffer. Similarly, misusing the mind gives us sorrow, pain. But when we appreciate the mind, use it properly, have a proper relationship, understand it deeply, and meditate on it as divine. Mind as Brahma, Brahma is divine. Meditate on mind as Brahma. Then, whatever be the range of that mind, we will also attain that range. We will also become as pervasive as the mind. We will also become as powerful as the mind. We will also become as miraculous as the mind. We will also attain whatever our mind can attain. So tasya tatra asya yatha kamacharo bhavati yo mano brahma iti upaste. One will have unobstructed range as that of the mind. We can move as the mind moves. Therefore, Hanumanji is called, his movement is as fast as that of the mind. Manojavam marututulya vegam. He could move as fast as the mind. He had the power of that mind. He has the power of the mind. So all this we can attain when we meditate on mind as Brahma. Then Naradji could meditate and Naradji could attain all this instantly due to his previous sadhana. Then Naradji asked the teacher that is there anything subtler than the mind? Asti bhagavo manaso bhuyah. Is there something which is subtler, which is superior, which is more fascinating than the mind? And the teacher says, yes, there is. Manaso vava bhuyo asti iti. There is something subtler than the mind, superior than the mind. Then Naradji says, please tell me about it. Tanme Bhagwan Bravitu iti. Please teach me, please tell me that which is subtler than the mind. And that now the teacher will tell in the next section, which we will see in our class on Monday. So till then, you take care, be happy, safe, peaceful, healthy, do your work, do your sadhana. Listen to the pravachan again, contemplate, think about it. And whenever you get time, just sit quietly and just look at your mind. Don't judge it, don't criticize, don't condemn, don't suppress. Just look at it as a great wonder of Bhagwan, the great miraculous creation of Bhagwan, the mind. Okay? See you on Monday. Hari Om. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram. Jaya Jaya Ram. Bole Syavar Ramchandra Bhagwan ki Jai. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari Om.